Well, hi, everyone. This is Michael, and welcome to the LoveWorks Dreamer and Doer podcast. It's where we believe that you are never too young to be a dreamer, and you are never too old to get started working on your dream. And we just want to sincerely thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. We know that there are plenty of great options for you to choose from. So again, thank you so much for choosing ours. We always like to remind you, too, that there are a couple different places that you can find us. One on YouTube, just search under LoveWorks Leadership Dreamers and Doers podcast. You can subscribe right there and watch now our over 80 episodes going strong. And you can also find us on your favorite streaming platforms. So whether that's SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, you're going to see Dreamers and Doers and be inspired to go after your big dream.
That's right. And our hope with Dreamers and Doers is that each week our special guest is going to connect with you wherever you find yourself today, and they're going to inspire you to become the best version of yourself for tomorrow.
Well, speaking, Carolyn, of becoming the best version of yourself tomorrow, I know that you are someone that is always working on your own personal growth.
Yes.
You had to think about that for a minute.
Well, I thought you were going to ask me a question.
Well, I was. And the follow-up to that is not only are you always working on your own personal growth, but you're also working ahead to plan the personal growth opportunities for our students that are part of LoveWorks. And next month, we have the opportunity to begin back with our LoveWorks programming. And that's going to consist of all of our great leadership lessons. And so Carolyn and I, we thought it'd be a great just moment and opportunity for you, if you're unfamiliar with LoveWorks, to be able to hear about a couple of favorite leadership lessons that our students experience. And so Carolyn, I know there's many, but you have one in particular that stands out today.
Yes, there's so many lessons that I feel like, Michael, you're right. We kind of say like, oh, and this is our favorite lesson. But I think this one is really, really one of my favorites, and it's called Be a Fruit Loop in a World Full of Cheerios, which you can kind of understand from even just the title. It's this idea of being different and being okay with being different. But we challenge the students not to just think about being different for the sake of being different, right? It's not just like, okay, I'm going to stand out and change my hair color or dress differently or, I don't know, make really weird noises. But instead, it's really about the way that we approach problems. And that's how we kind of define what a Fruit Loop is in a world full of Cheerios. So in a world where everyone kind of like sees problems and complains about the problems and lives with the problems, instead we say Fruit Loops are people who approach it differently, and it's more of a challenge, and that they see this challenge as something to be solved. And so it's really cool. We love to, in our lesson, Be a Fruit Loop in a World Full of Cheerios, we like to share different stories of young people, generally under the age of 20, who are fixing world problems. They're tackling them, not when they're older, but when they're right then and there faced with the problem. And so I love that lesson because I think it just encourages our students to kind of think about how they can create an impact now and not think about, okay, well, I have to get this degree first, or I have to have this particular job to make a difference, when that's not really the case. So, you can be a Fruit Loop even by coloring your hair, but I think being a Fruit Loop by being a leader is probably really cool too, is even better. How about you, Michael?
I love you saying that example of someone who has her hair colored.
Yeah.
It sounds like that'd be a great place to insert the quote. This real leaders, they don't blend in, but they stand out.
Oh, exactly. In more than one way, right? By their actions and I guess their hair too.
Absolutely. I'd say for me, one of my favorite, and it's hard to narrow this down, it has to be our lesson. And students, you're going to love this. It's called Winter Wonderland. But we normally teach this session at a time that you would least expect it. And it's not when it's cold outside or snow is falling, but we like to surprise our students and bring in a winter and a holiday theme that could include an indoor snow machine, inflatables, hot chocolates, real snowballs. But the point of this lesson is we believe that today, in culture today, that we don't have a deficiency of talent, but we have a deficiency of character. And so that's where we really like to emphasize and give our students. And so remove all of the props and all of the all of the things that I had just mentioned. And we love to give our students a picture of leadership, and it's that of the iceberg. And when I bring up the iceberg, regardless, sometimes I feel like old when I bring up names of celebrities that I used to know that my students have no idea who they are. But the story of the Titanic seems to be a timeless tale that people get. And it's a story, of course, about a Titanic. And they think about the Titanic and it hits this iceberg. And the point that we make is it wasn't the stuff that was above the water, the 10% that sank the ship, but it was the 90%, what's below the water, that sinks the ship. And it's in this particular lesson that we give our students a definition of character. And there's many different ones out there, but the one that we like is character is who you are when no one else is looking and no one else is around, and it's making the right choice even when it's hard. And it's definitely a lesson not just for students, but I think of all ages that we need to be reminded of. We hope you enjoyed a couple of those snapshots of a couple lessons here at LoveWorks. If you're more curious about LoveWorks programming, you can check us out at loveworksleadership.org. I know the thing that students, you want to check out the most is this upcoming interview. Before we get there, I just want to remind you of our format. Each week with Dreamers and Doers, we have an opportunity to sit down with someone that we've identified that is a dreamer and a doer. And we take some time and ask some questions to be able to hear the behind the scenes and the story kind of led to at least one of their big dreams that they're going after or that they have achieved. And we don't stop there, but we also like to hear about what were some of the obstacles and some of the challenges that they face. And we hope that it's not going to discourage you, but if anything, it's going to encourage you to go after your big dream. And so let's get ready to meet our dreamer and doer guest today. Her name is Liv Amsrud.
Liv grew up in America, but moved to her birth country, Norway, just after getting her bachelor's degree in international community development in order to accept a position at a church in Bergen as a volunteer youth worker, and also worked within cosmetics, skincare, and catering. She worked the next few years in various educational institutions where she finally earned her teaching degree while living with her husband and family on the east coast of Norway. In 2020, just before the departure of her family's sailing adventure, Liv finished her 2-year postgraduate certificate of education with an emphasis on the 2 main subjects that her bachelor specialized in, religious studies and social studies. In her free time, she leads a mentoring group of young teenage girls and together with a friend started up a cafe/weekly social gathering for young adults. She loves skiing, hiking, traveling, exploring cultures and languages. And together with her husband, they have 3 active boys, ages 7, 11, and 13, who love the outdoors. They live in a countryside in Tonsberg, Norway, and it's a 10-minute walk to a fjord and boat harbor. How cool is that? She says she's on the most epic family adventure yet, but their next goal is to cross the Atlantic on their Juno Sun Odyssey 43-foot sailboat. Wow. Hi, Liv.
Hi, how are you, Carolyn? Hi, Michael.
Hi, Liv. It is great to see you, and you are setting a first for us, Liv, by hosting this interview on a beautiful craft and vessel. You're on a sailboat.
Yes, I am. It's so good to see you guys. And yes, I'm on a sailboat anchored in Porto Santo, which is a northeasterly island in Madeira, in the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow. Now, is this are you on the boat that you're sailing on with your family?
Yes, I am. It's a Juno Sun Odyssey 43 foot.
So I feel like, Liv, our students are going to want to know right away before we get into all the other great questions we're going to ask you. Tell us about the boat. What's in the name?
Yes, well, we needed to find a name for our new boat. And we thought, what would be better than an acronym with all of our names in it? So the boat name is Elaine, and that would be all the first letters of our names. So E for Ivan, my husband, L for Liv, me, and then A for Axel, N for Nikolai, and E at the end for Espen. And it means torch, and it's adventuresome kind of character. So it worked perfectly.
I was going to say, I think that works and fits your family just right.
Yes, I agree. Thank you.
No, I love the meaning behind it, how perfect that all worked out. Well, Liv, I love getting to ask this question because it's the Dreamers and Doers podcast. And we know we're interviewing a person who is obviously a dreamer, but also a doer as well. But generally, there's we're more naturally one or the other. And so, what would you consider yourself? More of a natural dreamer or more of a natural doer?
Well, I and my husband would definitely say dreamer. I am not the type that goes out and finds things to do. I take opportunities, but I'm a dreamer. I love to just sit at cafes and dream and think about things to do. I love to people watch, but I've always had an international perspective, being that I was born in Norway. So I've always dreamed of living abroad, studying cultures. I just love the idea of the big world, going to explore. So I've always dreamed. And as a young child, I also dreamed by going bike riding, and we would say, let's go to the alley, let's go to the woods. And me and my best friend would put on our backpacks and go on little adventures in our backyard. And yeah, so I was always a dreamer, you could say. Yeah.
Well, Lee, we want to get to know the dreamer a little bit more. We're definitely going to hear, of course, about this great big world exploring and the adventures that you're on. But would you mind just taking us back to when you were younger? And can you tell us what life was like growing up? And when did you begin to sense just this taste for adventure?
Yes. Well, I was born in Norway, but when I was 2, we moved to Detroit, Michigan, or I would say the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. So that's where I grew up. Pretty busy area. We had cars everywhere, ambulances every day in the background. But we found little adventures. I love to bike ride. So we would, go on little adventures to the nearby woods. And then there's a golf course we would sneak on. And yeah, so I was always out on my bike, always doing fun things. And also my parents are very adventuresome. They always took us on vacations to many different areas. My dad's a surgeon, so we had to kind of escape because he was always on call. So if we were having vacation, we had to go somewhere outside of Michigan, where I grew up. So they loved all kinds of sports. We would always go skiing in the winter. We'd go down to Florida vacations. We'd go horseback riding, biking, go-karting, whitewater rafting, water skiing, jet skiing, banana boating, you name it. We just love to do active things. And my mom almost planned too much sometimes because my dad was, tired from doing surgery. He just wanted to lay on the beach, But yeah, I had a very adventuresome family and growing up. But I must say too, before my teens and maybe even in my teens, I was very shy. I was fearful. I was so shy, and I would call it fearful, really, because I couldn't even call to order a pizza. I thought that was really scary. And I just I know it's so funny because no one these days, as an adult, they could never imagine I was very to myself and shy and wouldn't talk to anyone. People thought I was stuck up because I wouldn't talk, but I was so afraid for some reason, just shy. And even if I remember one time, I don't know why I remember this little instance, but I was in the car in the wintertime with my best friend's mom, and just she asked me if I was too hot or cold, but I was too afraid to tell her. So I didn't want her to worry about me. I just didn't want to be of a nuisance to anyone. And so that's kind of another thing about me, about my growing up years. I was very not wanting to, I don't know, I was just afraid of doing things. But then when I was a teenager, my church was very supportive of me. My pastor, they believed in me. And so I ended up going on 6 different missions trips to different countries for a month long. And the first trip was when I was 15 years old. So I've been to Ecuador, Venezuela, Botswana, South Africa. And in that trip, we went a little bit to Zimbabwe and Zambia. And then I also went to India, Australia, New Zealand on the same trip, Australia, New Zealand, and then New Orleans. So, and on some of those trips, I was a leader for a small group. And yeah, I really stretched myself because I realized when people thought I was stuck up in high school, I thought, I'm not stuck up. I'm just a little afraid. And maybe I need to reach out more and be more friendly. So I decided as a teen, I guess, to kind of step out of my comfort zone and not let fear stop me from doing different opportunities. And also my dad was a big factor because I really respected him, and he was a big dreamer, a visionary. He always saw something huge, and always told me to go for my dreams. But when I asked him for advice, he always would say, follow your heart. And so he would never give me the advice I really want, like tell me to do this or that. He kind of gave it back to me and said, you need to follow your heart, do what you think is best. So I had to really, like dig inside myself and figure out what was best. And he'd always say, nothing's impossible. Nothing's impossible for those who believe. And of course, he has a faith in God. So he would say, nothing impossible for God. And it kind of, my faith, I guess, stretched me to kind of get out of my shell, because as a younger kid, people would say I was very, very shy. And people that know me later are like, she's not shy. So yeah, that's, kind of goes together.
Wow.
Liv, just getting to know you a little bit, I mean, I definitely can't tell that you were shy, but I understand that. I think that's probably why we have so many food apps that you can like order anything now, including pizzas, without ever having to talk to a person. But I'm so glad that you did. And because now you've set off on this adventure, and I love getting to hear even the background of it, 6 mission trips in 1 month, how life-changing that must be, to then, of course, you taking up that challenge of like, okay, I'm going to stretch myself. I don't want to seem as this person who's stuck up. I'm not that person. So I have to act differently. It's kind of interesting, because it's like, who you are, but then you actually have to like live that out. And I think there's a struggle and a tension there for a lot of people. But it sounds like, your taste of adventure was awakened, of course, by your family, by these trips. And it's led you to do something that I think a lot of people daydream about. In fact, I'm probably going to go ride my bike later and close my eyes for a little bit and imagine it's the sea air that's blowing through my hair. But I know it's not. But you, but you are for real sailing around the world. And so what led you to do this? And I mean, what challenges have you faced?
Well, as I told you, I grew up in the Motor City capital of Detroit. So I only knew cars, like sailboats I had hardly heard of, So it's kind of a miracle almost that I'm here. But what sparked it was actually just the feeling of not knowing which day was which, kind of not knowing the difference of the days, not having enough time to make memories with our boys. This trip actually sparked from just needing more and wanting more time with our family. And the idea of sailing, I have no idea how it popped up to my husband's head, but he just one August day, in the middle of August 2018, he just came home and just had this idea to sail around the world. And the minute he told me, I was like ready to do something different. So I'm like, yes, let's do it. When do we leave? So, I mean, I love the opportunity of adventure or just a new idea. I love variety of life, and I like to have things, traditional, or like I like to know what to expect, but at the same time, I like to also know not what to expect. So the idea sparked just from a desire to have more time together and to do something adventuresome too, because we were working hard as most normal people, but the only way that we could have done it so quickly, though, was also because of our lifestyle. Like, we never lived above our means. We would, we were in a position where we could do something. We had been saving. We didn't live above our means. We lived under our means, you could say. We didn't do expensive things. We did most outdoor things with our family. We saved. So I think that is a factor, too, which I thought I would talk about later. But yeah, that's where it started.
Liv, if you don't mind, can we just park back in 2018 for just a moment? And I hope that I'm getting part of this story right. So definitely fill in the blanks that I'm not. So, I think about your story, and this is called the Dreamer and the Doer podcast.
Yes.
And sometimes you may think, well, the dream is going to take days, months, possibly even years. Is it true that your husband came home in one mid-August afternoon with the idea, and on that same day in the evening, your family was saying yes to the dream?
Yeah, actually. I know that some people dream for like 10 years or more, just to get out there. I believe it was something else kind of in him that was wanting to do something that kind of, the dream in a way started earlier, but just not the exact idea to sail. But the exact idea to sail, that dream was started on one Friday night and also put into action from the next day, you could say. Yes.
Wow. Is there a way, not to put you on the spot here, but Wow. I'm just thinking of students that are listening to this that, you know, have a big dream themselves and might be asking themselves the question, well, how do you know when to say yes and when to say no? Is there just a feeling you had, a gut level feeling? Can you talk with us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Well, my gut feeling like instantly was a yes. But after that, I did start having a little bit of like questions and doubts. Are we doing the right thing? Is this, this sounds like maybe a little selfish. We're going to go away from all our friends and family and everything and just have fun, And I talked to a few mentors about this idea, just one, I think, one or two that I really trusted and was kind of like, what do you think about this idea? And they gave me some advice and really said, this sounds really great. I mean, as a mom, my main job is to, help my children develop and love them and be with them. And so they actually kind of helped it go on to not die, but to keep going. So, yeah, that's definitely important, is to kind of maybe run it over someone that you really trust, that you really know will believe in you and have a sound answer to give you.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So in less than a few hours, over lunch, you have the idea. Over dinner, you say yes. You go to sleep, wake up the next day, and you and your family get to doing and start preparing. So I'm so curious. What did the early preparation, can you walk us through some of the stages of preparation to get ready for actually setting sail?
Yes. Well, the general preparation was, okay, there's like 5 factors I thought of, was like money, boat, knowledge, skills, and time. So I was thinking, okay, money, we have started saving. We've lived under our means. We're good there. We took a little money out of the house, those kind of things. But we also need to rent out the house. We did that. And we got a little bit of profit, a monthly profit, so that we could also use that on the trip. And then the boat, we had to find the right boat. And we were worried, oh no, what's the perfect boat for crossing the Atlantic and all these things. But after getting a little knowledge and reading up on it, we found out there is no perfect boat. It just has to be Class A, seaworthy, and the right one for us. And so we didn't want to get one that was too big, too little. So we got to 43. There was also the idea that we didn't want to have to travel long distances just to find a boat and use money on that. So we found one in Norway. And we would have maybe rather had a 46 foot, but the one we found was good for us, 43. It didn't have much gear, but the price was right so that we could add on and upgrade the boat. So we had to upgrade the boat, a lot of things. Sun cell panels. We wanted to be partially self-sufficient. We needed lithium batteries. That means that you can recharge the batteries in order to have electricity on your boat. We needed a dinghy, all these different things. So we needed a boat that was the right price so we could add on these things. And also the knowledge. We had no knowledge of sailing. So we had to read up. We were reading books. Ivan, if you could find Ivan in his good chair, his lazy boy chair, every evening, reading up about diesel engines, sailing, how to sail, blogs and YouTube and everything. We were every single day reading up, getting knowledge, because actually the safest way you can go sailing is if you have the knowledge. Of course, you have to learn and have the skills, but we also took a 2-day beginner sailing course, and that's very little actually, but it got us started in having the feel for maneuvering a sailboat. I was one of the first ones picked out to drive the sailboat. He's like, make a figure 8. And I'm like, you sure you want me to do it? I was so scared. It was scary. It was a huge boat. We learned on a 40-foot boat, I think, and ours is 43. So it was almost the same size. But yeah, I wanted to be fully prepared, and I said, Ivan, we need to take an offshore course. It was like 5 days and tons of money. And I wanted a survival course. I wanted a more comprehensive first aid course. I wanted to just be prepared. But at the same time, Ivan, he kind of said no to that because it was so expensive. And if we had the knowledge, we had the books, we had the ability to get the knowledge, we had to learn kind of hands-on and just as we go, learning by doing. So that's what we did. And also the time with work and stuff, I quit my job. Ivan's boss was nice enough to give him a leave of absence for a year. And then we were hoping that he might, extend it to 2 years, which we think he has now. So we're very thankful for that. He's a CEO at an engineering company. So that was like I don't know, with all these factors, I don't know if we would have been able to do the trip without this, the renters that we have and the boss that Ivan has.
Mhm.
And also Ivan's parents, who came, I think, a month or two before departure, and they helped me clean up the house, get it all ready for rental, also get everything into the boat, helped fix things, and they just were our angels. I could not have done it without them, for sure.
Oh, wow. So I wanted to ask you just a follow-up about that, Liv. And I'm just thinking about our students right now that, maybe they're doing some research or they're working on an idea that they have, reading books, listening to other podcasts, hopefully Dreamers and Doers. But I'm thinking about you and Ivan, reading the books and watching YouTube videos. And then the moment that you stepped out on the sailboat for the first time, with being unstable on the boat, I'm sure, and then putting your hands on that steering wheel. Do you remember what those feelings were like and those emotions?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I had butterflies, and it's not just me on the boat. I had a whole group, a course, everyone's watching, from me not being able to call up for a pizza to standing there steering the whole boat. It was kind of crazy, but luckily it was a still day. It was still waters. We were on the motor, not the sail yet. So it was a rush, to say the least. And but when you have people behind you cheering you on, and they know that I've never done this before, then it was doable. Even though I had those feelings, I could do it because I had the support and I had, understanding people there, and they hadn't done it either. So it was kind of the group feeling that kind of helped me, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Trying to put myself in your shoes, I also feel like there would be a lot of pressure. I'm not sure who else was on the boat and taking this class, but I can't imagine that everyone else out on that boat was getting ready to sail around the world.
Yeah, no, they weren't getting, I think some of them were just doing, one person I know was just going to go on a sailing vacation in the Mediterranean. He wanted to be able to help out a little. And others were just wanting to sail in the fjords of Norway. And I did meet one other guy who he and his family had talked about sailing the world, but they were going to wait a few years till their kids got a little older.
Wow. Well, you and your family's courage is such an inspiration, Liv.
Thank you. You know what?
I agree.
I I'm losing a little battery here, so I just need to move downstairs.
Well, we get to see
unplug I can plug it into. So
this is so fun. We get to see above the deck, and now we get an opportunity to see the tour and below the deck.
Yep,
that is right.
If you're just if I don't fall down these steps.
Carolyn,
this is the audio side of the podcast. I would recommend kind of jumping onto the video side on YouTube because this is pretty dang cool. We just left the top deck of the boat, Elaine. You would have seen the Norwegian flag. You would have seen some blue water, blue skies, a little bit of seagulls. Now we're below. We're in the boat now. This is so cool.
Yes, you are in the boat, and is that okay?
No, this is great. Liv, I'm going to ask this question because I'm sure our students, they're probably in one of two camps right now. Either they're excitedly about to pitch to their parents about how they need to get a boat and sail around the world. And other students who are possibly wondering, what are the dangers or what are the challenges that are involved in actually sailing around the world? So could you give us just a snippet and a preview of I'm sure, there are great days where it's sunny and beautiful outside, and there are other days when it seems the sea is uncontrollable. So
yes. Well, the funny thing is I have so many people commenting on, aren't you afraid that your kids are going to be eaten by sharks when they swim in the water? And I'm like, actually, I thought I would be afraid of the same thing, but so far I haven't, because I just know that they're not there. You would see them if they were, and we know which kind of fish are in the water where we are. But I mean, the main challenges we've had so far, besides, COVID coming right before we were going to leave, and that people concerned, are you really going to leave in the middle of a pandemic and things like that. But we actually did have just actually September, right after we left, there was a incidence of orca whales, killer whales, attacking sailboats the exact same size as we had. down the coast from Portugal to Spain, which is exactly where we were going to be sailing in just like a month or two after that. That was one danger, a real danger that was actually very new, only came after COVID started. So we, I struggled with that a little, and I was like, oh my gosh, are we going to actually sail there? I don't want to sail at nighttime, Yeah, no, it was scary, but we luckily, when you read up about something, you get knowledge, you know what to do if it happens. So we actually did see orcas, and that was a little bit after this, but this was in a little bit closer to the Canaries. We saw them. First, we saw dolphins, and we were like, whoa, cool, there's also dolphins. And then all of a sudden, orcas, which are actually a type of dolphin, if you didn't know, they're part of the dolphin family. They came too, and then my heart just sank, and I'm just like, Ivan, those are orcas. Quick, we need to turn off everything, So that was a real danger, but we did not get attacked. Unfortunately, we just learned of another boat we're following that did get attacked, but they knew what to do. They turned off their instruments because it's kind of attracts them with the noise. They didn't turn their steering wheel so that if the rudder got hit, it wouldn't get broken off. But it did happen to a boat next to them, just a little bit ways away. So actually, that's just in one area. It's luckily not all around the world. It's just a weird phenomenon just right now. Mm-hmm. But also, heavy weather would be the other big thing. And that's the great thing about navigational instruments these days. They're digitalized. They are modern instruments that actually tell you way beforehand what's coming. So you usually have a good idea of what you're getting yourself into. Sometimes you decide maybe you can do a little more than you can, which we've done a few times, and get yourself in a rut. And big waves are also another factor. I think the biggest waves we've been out in is 5 meters, which would be 15 feet. Wow. And it looked like a mountain. It was kind of scary, but we knew that it was actually safe as we got out from the harbor. We were coming from a marina, and I don't know why, but there was some guy on a sup board, a standing up paddleboard, and he was coming in, and behind him was this enormous wave. And I was like, oh my gosh, Ivan, should we turn around? But if we turned around, it would have been more dangerous because then you get closer to land. So the farther out from land you get, the less it seems, because it kind of all just blends in, and you can't really tell that it's 5 meters, or 15 feet. So yeah, but we've had a lot of challenges besides that too. Lockdown in France for a month and a half, and trying to cross the Bay of Biscay, which is notorious for its waves and weather. But we ended up just doing the little bottom part of it because we sailed on the inside of the coast, and also just learning the boat terms and ropes and terminology. I'm not that good at it. And yeah, we have 6 sails too. We have to figure out what kind of sails we're using on each trip and get them ready. So yeah, there's a lot to think about once you start to set sail.
Yeah. Liv, I hear it's kind of sometimes disorienting, like life at sea. So I was wondering, do you have any kind of like daily rituals that you guys kind of take part of, or any routines that you guys do?
Yes, we every morning we have a long breakfast, which we just all love. The boys just have so many questions, so much to talk about. But we also every day have we have a little devotional every morning where we read a little bit in the Bible or a word of encouragement, and we pray for the day. And for me, that really sets the tone for the day. It kind of sets course. It gives me like hope for the day, and also if we're going on sailing passage, just kind of that solid rock to kind of depend on, and know that we're not just doing this on our own. We have someone to help us. So that and also other traditions we have which aren't as spiritual, or we also every Saturday morning we have pancakes. Every Saturday night we have movie night with candy, and every Sunday morning we have omelets. So, but I think having just normal little traditions to kind of create a camaraderie, create something to look forward to as a family and to do together. So yeah.
So Liv, I think if there were students that were maybe on the edge of continuing with this dream of sailing around the world, they heard about the orcas and the weather, but I think you brought this back home now with your weekly rituals.
Yes.
I think they're back in.
Yeah, I know. I mean, those things, especially the orca whales, that is just for a tiny little area, and it's probably going to stop too soon. I think it's just a little gang of young orca whales. But yeah, no, I believe that if you have a firm faith, you can do basically anything. You can have also the courage to do whatever you are put your mind to, and if you can see it, you can do it. That's my thought.
I love it. We believe that as well too, Liv. So I want to ask you, and this is a question not to get ahead of the current adventure, of course, that just awaits you and your family. But we did mention this in your bio that there are some other things that you're thinking about in the future after this sailing trip. So can you talk with us about another dream and challenge that you have in your hearts?
Yeah, well, of course, the very first main goal is crossing the Atlantic, which is huge for us because then you are on your own for at least 2 weeks. So that's definitely a big challenge for us, but we think we can do it. It's mostly down windward sailing, which means the wind in your back. So you have easy sailing and basically the same sails the whole time almost. But yes, when we get back, we have already started talking about exploring the north part of Norway, which we've never been to. There's a place called the Lofoten Islands, which is, it kind of is the Thailand of Norway, maybe, even though it's colder, but a lot colder. But there's also the Northern Lights there. And yeah, so that's kind of the next kind of adventure we would want to do. But actually, this trip has really made us think about family and wanting to spend more time with our family. Of course, we're away from all of them now, and we did that purposefully. But it kind of set things in perspective that when we get back, we want to focus on getting to know our cousins better. And they go to this camp, this Bible camp, every summer, which we've skipped out on a few times because we've done other things. But also, my boys really want to get to know their cousins better, and I think that's going to be our main goal when we get back, actually.
Oh, that's really special. Lee, there's a question that we love to ask each of our Dreamer and Doer guests, and it's an opportunity to think back about advice that you might offer either your middle school or high school self. And it's not necessarily a question asking you, well, would there be something that you would change? But if there be one bit of encouragement or advice that you could whisper into your middle school year's ear, what might that be?
Yeah. Yes, I would definitely talk about the fear issue. Don't let fear stand in your way. Don't let it decide for you, because if you have respect for the unknown, get to know what you want to do, read up about it, then I think it'll kind of kick fear to the side and it won't let fear decide for you. Because if you do let fear decide it, you won't take any risks. And to do anything great or anything different, you have to take a little risk. And then you can find out what you're actually capable of. But I would also say be careful about who you share your dream with and when, maybe, because sometimes it can be a very touchy subject, maybe something very that you believe you can do. You can see it, but not everyone else might be able to see it right away. So I would advise to find someone that you really trust that can give you encouragement and maybe a little advice. And tell only those people at first until you kind of are closer to fulfilling this dream or goal. So just protect it, maybe even journal it. And like I said, if you can envision yourself doing it, then you probably can, And then the last thing I would say, which is something I should have or would have wanted to learn when I was younger, is live within your means. This sounds kind of boring maybe, but if you are if you're actually living under your means, like that means don't spend everything you get, maybe save a little bit, don't always do the more expensive thing, don't get a credit card and like max it out and use more, that you have this then you have to pay more every single month for all the rent. If you actually have a little money saved or you're good with your money, then if an opportunity comes up, then you're ready. You can jump at it, If you're drowning in debt, you can't. You have to, or you could, but then there'd be in more debt, So I would surely advise for any dream to think about that now. Think about it as a young person so that you're ready. And you have so much more freedom when you are free from debt. So that would be the last thing I think I would say. Yeah.
Wow. It's such practical advice. I'm like, well, all these little tidbits here. I love taking risks and of course even protecting the dream and until it's ready. But I love, I mean, what you said about kind of if you can envision it, then I mean you can probably do it. And I think that's where sometimes people kind of struggle with is like they don't even want to go there. They don't even want to imagine themselves in that spot because I
Ooh,
think
yeah.
that's just even more of a challenge of like, okay, this could actually be real and that's really hard. But
Yeah,
But Lee,
totally.
so for the last part of our interview, we want to give you just 1 minute to link it all up and to share with us something that is encouraging for the big dreamer, the big doer that's listening out there. So are you ready?
I am.
Awesome. Ready, set, go.
All right. For the dreamer, I would say don't let fear stop you. Challenge fear and never say no to an opportunity that you think will help you grow personally and that you inwardly want to achieve. Get out of your comfort zone, take a step of faith, and like Sailing Uma says on YouTube, don't buy a couch, you know? Get out of your comfort zone. To the doer, I would say always work your best because when you do, and not for the sake of others' approval, but for your own sake and even for God's sake and honor, then people will notice you and reach out to you. I've had so many examples of that people are like, wow, you're really doing your best here. We can trust you with more, you know? So I would say do your best. People will reach out to you, give you an opportunity maybe in the area that you're interested in or even otherwise. And also I wanted to give a little popular aphorism for sailors, which an aphorism is just more of a literal saying than a proverb. And that is, a ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. And that was John A. Shedd that said that all the way in 1928, I think. Yeah.
Boom. That was awesome. Lee, thank you so much for sharing a tidbit for a dreamer that challenged me to, of course, I love the facing your fears. I feel like that's a big part of your story. And then the doer, of course, as well, is to do your very best, to work your hardest, and hopefully to keep dreaming as well. So, Lee, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think this is going to hopefully be one that awakens an adventuresome spirit in our students and our families that are listening. And hopefully, I hope challenges them to actually do something that people would also be like, wait, they're doing what? Just like you.
Aww. It's just doing one little step at a time. Yeah. And so good to be here with you guys.
Liv, I feel like you and your family truly are not just a light, but you are a torch in this world. You really are just a source of inspiration. Would love for you to tell us, and we'll include this, of course, in the show notes, but where can we either learn more about you or just track this story and your voyage?
Yes, we have a website, which is pretty simple. It's called Sailing Elaine, which is the name of our boat.com. And there you can follow the map route that we are sailing. I have a few blogs, but I'm very behind on that. But if you want to know more real time, you can go to Instagram. And we are also called Sailing Elaine there with a little line underneath between Sailing and Elaine. And also we have a YouTube channel that has newly started up. And there I will be trying to post maybe every 2 weeks or so a new video about our journey. That's fantastic. Also called Sailing Elaine. Yes.
Well, and you already have technically two episodes that are up there. You have an intro video of just the boat Elaine, but 2 fabulous videos of anywhere from 23 to 24 minutes of content. So students, definitely check that out. And when you are watching this live, I'm sure there might already be another episode up and ready to watch. So, Liv, again, thank you so much. We're going to live the rest of this month vicariously through you, wishing we were out there on the waters. But we are going to just take your words of wisdom and encouragement today and really continue to live out our dreams and see our students do the same as well. So thank you for making us better today.
I wish you all the best. Thank you.
We'll see you, Liv.
Thank you, Liv.
Bye.
Well, Carolyn, are you ready to get this ship out of harbor where it's safe and to get out there where the big ships float and to do what boats are made for?
Yes, I'm ready. I think I need to spend a little bit more time thinking about the formation of it and and the voyage and preparing. But wow, what a story. I'm just imagining kind of the yes, right? Like it's her husband comes home, proposes this idea. They don't have any sailing experience, but I mean the gut level reaction there is kind of like the yes. And I think it's a really special moment, because if I'm being honest, Michael, I probably would have had maybe a similar reaction, but then I would have backpedaled. I would have kind of been like, okay, like, wow, what an amazing dream. I want to do this. And then I would have started listing out all of the reasons I couldn't until they were enough to be like, okay, well, I'm going to buy the couch and instead of the boat, and live comfy on land.
And then you know what voice you would hear in your head? It would be Liv's voice. And you know what she would say to you?
She would probably say the quote of the ship. No.
she might say that quote, or she would say, Carolyn, stop dreaming and get real and do it.
Yes. Yeah. No, what an inspiration. Wow.
Such an inspiration. Well, students, we hope that you took as much out of this as we did. We always like to remind you that if you want to find out more about LoveWorks, or of course, learn more about digital leadership or some of the leadership lessons that we were talking about, you can find all of that and more at loveworksleadership.org.
Yes, and remember, real leaders, they don't blend in, but they stand out.
Dream big.
And do your dream.
See you, everybody.